And we're live. Perfect. We're here. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Magee. I'm Vice President of Partnerships and Leisure for Tzell Travel Group.
And I'm Wasserman. I'm the Senior Director of Supplier Relations and Marketing at Protravel International. And we have the pleasure today of being joined by Geoffrey Kent, the founder and co-chairman of Abercrombie Kent. And today we're going to have a special Q&A conversation for Protravel and Tzell exclusively. And Geoffrey, thank you for joining us.
Very nice to be here.
Thank you.
Nice cup of tea too.
You're welcome. We make it happen here.
Yeah.
And as most of you know, A&K has been a legacy partner for Tzell Travel and for Protravel for many, many years. In fact, last year, you had awarded Tzell and Pro as one of your top producers at your biannual 100 Club event. So thank you for the recognition. Thank you for your partnership overall and everything you do for our clients and our advisors every day. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
And we love working with all of you. It's always fun being with you many, many years. And we just want to do the very best we can each day.
Thank you,
Great,
Jeff.
thank you.
So, Aaron, you want to kick us off?
So, Geoffrey, I think we're just going to start it right off with some questions. What do you think luxury travelers are looking for today? And how do you see that changing in the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, I think, when you go back in time, when I started Abercrombie Kent in 1962, people came for 1 month. It was a long, drawn-out process. Now everybody wants an immediate answer. They probably spend about 10 days, maximum 10, 12 days. They often like to leave on a Thursday, back on the following Sunday, a week later. Today, they want to pack many more experiences. I've always been an experienced guy, but they want to pack many more experiences in. And I think that they're not nearly so leisurely. There's no such thing as, oh, well, let's find this nice acacia tree, have a nice lunch, and maybe we'll read a book for 2 or 3 hours and then go look for more animals. It's like, okay, what's next? And so everyone is very hyperactive. I'm hyperactive anyhow. And so that's what we do. And I think that all people want to do, in the old days, they'd always come back to the same place. Thank goodness. I was the guide in Africa, get the same client every year, another safari. People have safari, done that. What's the next place to do? And so that's really what, and people they want to learn as much as they can, the shortest possible time. And that's why Abercrombie Kent always has local guides, as you know, who can also show them their country, show them their friends, and actually they go back changed, having met so many interesting people.
Yeah, so it's certainly challenging going to one destination and trying to be able to immerse them in the destination in such a short period of time. So
exactly, yeah.
And how do you think that the notion of a luxury traveler is going to be changing in the next 5 years?
Well, I think this whole word of luxuries that have been overused, from Maseratis to Maseratis to Gulfstreams, right? I think what we look at it at is that during the day, make it simple, during the day, we want incredible activity, right? With no luxury. This is like, well, I mean, you have, but with the best guide possible, amazing sightseeing and all of that. But at night, that's when the luxury takes over. You've got to have very elegant surroundings, outstanding wines, delicious food, and you must almost feel like you've never left home. And that can be on the side, like one of our camps, Olanana, and the Masai Mara River, with all the hippos snorting and grunting at you. But you have some great French wine and everything. So people want the combination of that, the violent activity and all of that. But at night, they don't want to rough it at night. They want to absolutely feel they haven't left home.
That's one thing that's never changed, as you're saying.
Well, we've always been doing that since the first tents, with the chandeliers and the butter pans. Yes.
Yeah. Must have been hard to get air conditioning into those tents originally.
Well, I mean, the amazing thing is I actually built the first tented camp ever.
Yeah.
And when you look at it today, I think, what a lousy businessman I should have patented. Imagine how many camps there are.
Trademark.
Yeah. We did build the very first one.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest challenge in doing that, in going to these remote destinations and trying to create a comfortable environment?
But in 1966, it was incredibly because of no refrigeration.
Right.
We were the first, because of my army background. I brought down logistic engineers and put them into old diesel trucks, which I bought secondhand from the army at the auctions, all right? And it was that the refrigeration that enabled us to then go on safari over it. But otherwise, you couldn't eat. There were no shops. You didn't.
Sure.
And so that was a big difference in refrigeration.
And of all the destinations that you do this in, and you've got so many of those sort of glamping type of experiences now, which is the hardest? Which has been the hardest to set up?
Well, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda was easy because I lived there. It's my home. I'm school, brought up there, and I knew my way around. I think we had great successes in Botswana. Tanzania was good, but of course, then as you remember, Tanzania broke off from Kenya, and we had to then reestablish ourselves completely. We couldn't move the trucks from one side to the other. So it was very challenging, actually, way back in those days, to actually set up a brand new company with all the logistics to do that. But, I think that, one thing I'm good at is pioneering. I'm just off again, to Madagascar, Gabon, Angola, and so I like that. You get a big Jeep and you thunder down roads. That makes a nice airstrip. Put a camp here, check there's water, and then we're off to the races.
Yeah. Well, you're leading into so many, I think, of our questions. We had an order, and we're like, oh, screw it, because you're leading into it. But one of the questions we had for you is kind of finding those destinations. So how do you seek them out, and how do you decide that it'll make a great stop for a private jet journey?
Well, first of all, I read a huge amount, right? And I read all my clients' reports, and that's interesting. But above all, I always have, like many of you, a big map. Wherever I go in Abercrombie Kent, huge maps on the wall, world maps. And I have one in my office. And even if I'm talking to somebody, I'm looking at the map and say, that looks interesting. I was just looking the other day, Eritrea, Ethiopia. So why don't we go to Eritrea? I've always wanted to go to West Africa. Let's go and look at voodoo in Benin. And so that's what I do. And then we call out little teams, and you've got 1 year, get to Benin, get to Eritrea, and sort it out. And they do. And then we go.
That's amazing. Do you personally go on every single trip before it is sold to a client?
Never.
It's your team that goes?
No, my team goes. But they're very, very good.
Right.
And they know nothing can go wrong, ever. And so they are very, very careful.
So that leads us into a question that we had asked before was, what's the most difficult place you ever tried to go into?
I know. I mean, there's one place, and that's the Southern Sudan, and I went there way back in 1979. There was a lull in the fighting. I drove trucks all the way across from Nairobi, all the way across northern Kenya, across the border. We were literally attacked by people and we just drove our trucks and got away from them in the Southern Sudan border. Wow. It'd been a war for 15 years. Yeah. Right. Got to Juba, and then tried to, because I thought it'd be very cool. You got the Nile and everything, but it was impossible. I mean, and in the end, I think the Northern Sudan were very jealous of me coming in, and they said that, I was like a CIA agent or something, and I got put into house, I was arrested, then finally put into tent arrest, not house arrest. It was tent arrest.
Is that better?
Yeah, it was actually. It was on the Nile. You could catch fish and make sure crocodiles.
And how long were you on for tent arrest?
Oh, I was there about 3 months. It was quite a hairy. Oh no, it was a serious situation. Yeah.
And what year was this again?
It was 79, around about 78, 79. And have I been back? No. No. That was it.
No thanks.
No, we were ahead of our time.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell us about your process for actually designing a new journey. So I know you say you do a lot of reading and you have other people that helped you. From a client perspective, if you were to help them understand what's the entire process, saying this seems viable, this doesn't seem viable.
Well, let's talk in real terms, right? I mean, spend some time looking at Gabon, right? Here's this country, if you read about it, which says 3/5 of it, that may not be exact, is all forest. The president of Gabon made them all into reserves many, many years ago. They have huge number of gorillas, huge number of chimpanzees. They've got elephants that walk on the beach. They get hippos that swim in the ocean. They got probably the best fishing in the world. And I said, I'm going to go there. I've read about this. I'm going to go. And luckily, I knew the president of Gabon, went down there, and then he lent me his helicopter. And then I said, so let's start at the beginning. You start with where you land, Libreville. Right, okay, that's good. Air France, twice a week. Good, done. Right, so where's the nearest place to that? Oh, Loanga. Right, let's go to Loanga. Yeah. And then we looked and we found elephants on the beach and we saw that. Right, this is where you have your base lodge. This is where you start. So you then take your helicopter and then you ask them, so one of the interesting things, say, oh my gosh, there are all these waterfalls. I mean, like 6 waterfalls in one place. So let's go. We landed there in helicopter. These beautiful waterfalls with elephants underneath. And, I mean, this is like Murchison, nothing there. Oh, that's cool. Then we went to another place called Bateki, and gorillas are quite hard to find. Sure. When you go to Uganda or Rwanda, you can walk, we were discussing it earlier. It could be a 3 to 8 hour walk or a 1 hour walk, but it can be a long time. Mm-hmm. But there we go by boat, by river, and we saw gorillas from the river.
Oh.
So cool. So you can actually have a really nice glass of wine and see gorillas coming down. I mean, it's really nice. So it's a different way to see gorillas and chimpanzees too, a mandrill monkey. So now you start to piece together. Those are the key things. And then you start. You've got to start with your main lodge, and then you build from then up with a helicopter or light plane. You've got to build airstrips. Then you've got to build maybe a fly camp. Fly camp is a rough camp, but you can get there.
Okay.
And then the fly camp becomes a lodge, and that's how you open a country.
And is the government giving you any assistance to build
terrific.
this?
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Very, very, very helpful. And they must do it.
And they want to build the tourism.
Right.
Yes, they want tourism.
Sure.
And they've got everything there. It's an amazing place. Yeah.
I would think a lot of Americans wouldn't think of going to Gabon, right?
Well, nobody, even you wouldn't think of going to Gabon right now because there's nowhere to sleep, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, we will do this. We'll build one lodge and then we'll take it. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Well, we certainly appreciate you pioneering and sort of creating these new destinations for our clients to go to. So thank you for doing that. But I know you spoke a little bit about what you read, and I'm always curious to hear where people get their inspirations for things. So what do you read? Do you read a lot of books? Are there certain publications you like to read for inspiration?
Well, I mean, I read just the easiest of things. I mean, I read the Financial Times every day. I read the New York Times every day. And then I read the Daily Mail for gossip because I want to know exactly what's happening to all of my friends. But then I also read The Economist. Actually, I read The Economist very carefully because The Economist has all the new things, what's politically happening. And that's if you have to read, because we're all so busy. We don't sit down and read a book anymore. I mean, I do read books.
Yeah.
I do quite a few, usually on holiday.
Do you read on your phone?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of us are guilty of that.
Reading off the phone?
Yeah, reading the news off your phone.
Oh, yeah, I read the news off the phone.
Oh, that's
I'm sorry, but I don't read books off the phone.
Yeah,
I like a big fat book.
yeah,
Same.
sure.
Yes, yeah.
Even when I travel, I carry a huge
big
book in
fat
my
book.
bag.
Yeah, I can't
it's
stand
so
this.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I know you were speaking earlier that you had been arrested and put in tent arrest, but what is the scariest adventure you've ever been on? Was that it, or was there somewhere else where you went there and you thought, oh, wait, this might not go well in your
Well, I mean,
entire
I think I just got back. Well, just got back last, gosh, time goes fast, but last December, I went to the South Pole. You know, more people have climbed Everest than have been to the South Pole. And very quick one, how high do you think the South Pole is? You've got 2 seconds to answer.
Oh.
30,000 feet.
Yeah, that's what I was
No,
gonna say.
9,300
Okay,
feet.
okay.
But it's pretty high, huh?
Yeah.
But when you have minus 40 degrees, that's pretty high.
Yeah.
But so we planned that trip for 3 years, and it was much, much more rigorous than I thought. And it's cold,
Yeah.
and you're climbing mountains and this,
Wow.
and you're going for, I mean, we took our own plane, and we flew 800 feet above the ice for 5 hours,
Wow.
and then refueled for 2 hours, and then another 2 hours to the South Pole, and then another 2 hours back, and we slept in a tiny little bivouac tent, right? That was it. You've been up for 24 hours by the time you, but you know, that was a tough trip. And, but would I do it again? No, no. My wife didn't come because at the last minute I said, 2 of us can't do this trip. So she'll lead the next
Just in
trip,
case.
but I'll go to Cape Town and I'll kiss everybody and say bye.
Did you see anything there though that you
Oh,
thought like it
yeah,
was so
I
worth
got all the
it,
things
so
I
worth
wanted.
it?
Oh,
Yeah.
no. You saw the emperor penguins.
Oh,
That was,
yeah.
so, and totally unafraid. We went,
Thousands, right?
oh,
Tens
thousands.
of thousands.
Thousands, yes.
Yeah.
And then we went through ice caverns, 3 times the height of this, rivers. We went up, we climbed our own mountain, never been climbed before, so we could name it. We called it Mountain Inspiring after inspiring expeditions. And we got to the South Pole. And we went to the South Pole itself. And we got a stamp in my passport. Boing. South Pole.
There you go. So you've done so much in the travel industry. If you didn't go into the travel business, what do you think you would have done professionally?
Well, earlier on I was in the British Army. I've never stayed in the British Army, but I'd have loved to be probably like an F-16 pilot, or that would have been really nice.
Really?
Off an aircraft carrier, because you've got to have a little bit of dodginess.
An RAF
When you,
pilot.
yeah, no, rather an American pilot.
Okay,
I think you're
of course.
better planes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have changed nationality. I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
If you could fly anywhere as a pilot, where would you fly?
sorry.
Where would you like to fly as a pilot, just to see from the sky? Like where would be?
Oh,
the
well, I've
big-
been everywhere. I've covered 17 million miles.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I've just been everywhere.
And so in any of the small planes that you're ever in, the pilots ever let you take the controls?
No, I used to fly, when I was young.
Oh, you did?
Oh, no,
you,
really?
oh, you did
Oh.
fly.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
but
Nice.
no, I mean, it's not as serious, little puddle jump,
Yeah.
But I had a twin engine Aztec.
Oh, cool.
And but I didn't fly the Aztec, but I flew a smaller single engine plane, which was really nice. Had my PPL, private pilot's license.
Private pilot's license.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
That's really cool.
right.
That's really cool. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because A&K has been such a great supporter of the travel advisor community for many, many years. So how do you see advisors being sort of integral in the growth of A&K as it is today?
You know, everything is a DNA, right? And I remember when I first came to America as a young kid, you know, and I said, and I met a wonderful lady called Jane Chapin of Adventures Unlimited, all right? And she believed in me. I had said, I got this great idea. Everyone's hunting in Kenya. My great idea is that we take photographs, all right? And her husband hunted, right? She said, take photographs. I said, yeah, we'll hunt with a camera, not with a gun. She said, well, that's a good idea. And so really one created the photographic safari. And Jane believed in me because I was a young kid. She said, I believe in this young guy. And she took my product, that first camp, and we sold it all throughout America. And I really thank her on the company, Adventures Unlimited.
And one of the other people you first called on was Andy Pesky.
And Andy Pesky, Andy Pesky also believed in me. I remember he actually took me to 21 Club. I thought, this is a pretty fancy place. Yeah, in those days.
True New
There was an
Yorker, true New
A&K Jeep on
Yorker.
the ceiling.
Yeah, we put that there. Yeah, it hangs. Yeah, it does hang,
Yes.
indeed. But going back to your answer, I mean, travel agents have always believed in us. And when we started to really expand, I wanted to do private travel agent seminars. We took like 3,000 travel agents a year in the 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, all right, on fam trips around the world. And that's when I got to know them, understand them. And by telling them, listen, if you have a private client, you have one private client. You have one travel agent, they already have, 50 private clients, 100 private clients.
Sure.
So you're multiplying by 100 by having one convert each time. Right. But you've got to take them to understand, because A&K is different. We're not just normal. You know, we like to be really perfect in what we do, make sure the client is overwhelmed. And above all, they come back, we must have changed their lives. And I said, you know what, you've just changed our life. I took somebody the other day down to, diving with whales, and they couldn't believe it. That changed our life. So simple things. You know, we took people to the top of Everest Base Camp. All right? Wow, that changed our life. So what's changed? That's what you got to do.
What do you think are the challenges today in creating luxury experiences to remote destinations? We hear terms like glamping is kind of big now, but
I kind of roll my eyes a little bit.
It's something that you've been doing for decades now, and now there's kind of a buzzword now. But luxury trips to Kilimanjaro, people probably could never have imagined such things.
You know what? Yeah, I wrote about it. I know, as I said earlier, I'm a really bad business guy. I should have got experiential travel, locked it up, patented it, or whatever. So people have copied us, but they say that's, Kilimanjaro, I climbed when I was 16 years old. Amazing. The snow was halfway down then. And, when you talk about climate change, the snow is right at the top. I mean, we've always climbed Kilimanjaro, and the way we do it is with the best guide ever. You've got to have emergency services on hand, and you've got to be prepared for an accident, because people do get sick. They get altitude sickness, even the fittest people on earth, and they need help. You can't, otherwise they die. I mean, it's not, Kilimanjaro, 19,342 feet high. Yeah. It's not a joke. And so you've got to get all this, and people who just wander up and something happens. And that's what's so wrong. I mean, I think the travel agents community does tell their clients, listen, this is the way you should climb it.
Right. They have to realize it's not just an experience. It's hard. It's really hard. People make it look easy. A lot of it's very hard. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done, are you a whitewater rafter? No.
Are you a whitewater rafter?
A little bit.
Okay, go to the Zambezi.
Colorado River.
No, forget Colorado. That's like driving a dinky tour. Okay? Go to the Zambezi. bottom of the Kilimanjaro, the bottom of Victoria Falls. Yeah. Take a ride.
Yeah.
Level 5.
All right. Coming with you next time.
God, yeah, that's certainly scary. I did that at Iguazu Falls. We did whitewater rafting, but you kind of just go underneath the falls. And even that alone is pretty scary, but yeah, it sounds fun. So what are some of your favorite journeys that A&K currently offers? If you had to pick today, best experiences.
So how long do I have to take them? Like, do I have 20 years?
Yeah, whatever time you need.
Listen.
2-week trips.
Okay. I think, first of all, an African safari is the best thing you can do ever. And to do guerrilla tracking, see the wildebeest migration, 1.5 million animals. Yeah, go to Victoria Falls, do a helicopter trip around there, go to Botswana, That's all amazing and fantastic. So that's one of my best. I think Egypt is back. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cough. No, it's okay. Egypt is phenomenal, always has been. India is amazing. I think Antarctica, cruise is fantastic. I think that Vietnam, I think that the whole Myanmar, Laos, Vietnam, that whole area is amazing. Beautiful, beautiful, wild, and incredible. Going on, I think South America is amazing. We got offices throughout Brazil, Argentina, and so.
So Aaron, can I put you on the spot a little bit since you just came from Vietnam?
Sure.
Aaron just traveled to Vietnam 2 weeks ago. What was some of your favorite parts of that trip?
I'd like to describe Vietnam as a whole country as somewhat, and I've said this to Javier, who I traveled with as well, as sort of beautifully chaotic. And more important, the sights, the smells, the sounds, the people couldn't have been friendlier. And I have to admit, the A&K team was tremendous, from the local guys to the country managers. Everything was so well choreographed, but yet it didn't feel like it was choreographed. It felt like you were literally going on a journey from the top of the country down to the bottom, and how they explained not only especially the history of Vietnam between the French and the Americans and the wars that happened in between, but also how Vietnam has evolved today, and how A&K is bringing not only Americans, but others from around the world to experience kind of the old and the new as they come together. I thought it was incredible.
So really you experience the real DNA of Abercrombie Kent is we're a duck. We go really calm on the top and really crazy underneath.
A&K help lead you through the craziness. It's kind of like, as you said, Geoffrey, you kind of go through the thick of the country and have that real experience during the day, but in the evening you want to relax back to your 5-star hotel, and then the next day at 6 a.m. you pick it all up again and you go through your kind of crazy yet choreographed day, and then you kind of relax and it starts all over again. But you really feel like your day was just so full of, frankly, adventure.
The key thing to all of that is that Abercrombie & Kent is not a travel company. We're actually a logistic company. So all my British Army training, how we first started A&K, was Army logistics. And so everything runs like the military. The drivers are all smart. They're friendly. They work like crazy. They will do nothing wrong. That's what we have underneath. And it is a logistic business.
And there was at least 1 or 2 occasions where you could tell the logistics weren't going to work out, and they pivoted and we did something different, and it worked out just fine.
Did you have an opportunity to do any of the philanthropy experiences?
We didn't on that trip, which I was sorry, but we know that A&K obviously is philanthropy is a very big part of it.
I'd just love to talk to you a little bit about your philanthropy projects, and you do them all over the world, and there's some really incredible experiences that you give your clients in giving back to these communities. Which one is your favorite, or what few of them speak most to your heart and your passion?
I think we got to go back to the beginning, before, all of these things we did before people thought of it, whether experiential travel or indeed philanthropy. In fact, Friends of Conservation, we started in 1982 in the Masai Mara in Kenya. And we believe from the beginning that in sustainable tourism, the people who actually live there have to be sustained, both from education and health, animal conservation, and of course to bring jobs to the villages. I mean, my best story is, Masai Mara is a great story, but my best one is Uganda, Wendy. And years ago, before President Museveni was in power, I literally went there and I told him when he was not in power, and said to him, if you do get power, you've got to make Wendy into a national park. There are gorillas there, I told him. We will come in, I'll come in, and we'll habituate the gorillas. When he came in, he made it a national park. I came in, habituated the gorillas. And to begin with, obviously the tribes were moved out of the national park, and some of them were not well. And so we had a fig tree where we had one doctor once a week come and visit them and cure them. Today, that has evolved into the Bwindi National Hospital, 40,000 outpatients, surgeons ward, nurses, everything like that. And we produce over 1 million. Abercrombie Kent gives $1 million in fees to the community. And there's 302 gorillas have grown to like 410 gorillas, and that represents more than 50% of the world's gorillas left, world amount of gorillas
Wow,
left.
that's incredible.
So one idea has probably saved half the world's gorillas, mountain
That's
gorillas.
incredible.
Did you try to do that previously with Idi Amin?
I knew Idi Amin, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because my father,
Yeah.
who was in the King's African Rifles, hired Idi Amin. Can you
Really?
believe? Yes, he
Wow.
wanted to win the King's African Rifles National Boxing Championship.
Wow,
So yes.
small world.
Yes.
Kind of such a small
Yeah.
world. So before we wrap up, I have to ask you, what's the next frontier? What's on your radar?
You know, I mean, I really think it has to be. I think again, I'm sort of back to Africa. I think that Gabon, or really do something really good in Madagascar, because Madagascar's great here, great there. It needs all to be pulled together. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
So how are you going to do that? Probably light aircraft or something. If you're going to do something, Madagascar, beautiful beaches there. The lemurs are so sweet. It's really, really interesting. I'm being pressed to go into Angola now. Prince Harry was there, maybe they're still now, but
Yeah,
we're working at clearing the mines and making sure there's a place in the north or northeast corner down towards Botswana, which I think we could develop, and I think would be very, very interesting. That's the main thing. You know, we're developing Europe all the time. But I take on what I call the hairy places because a lot of people are not too keen on going to Angola. You know, so I like to go and do that.
Great. Thank you.
That's fascinating. Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Geoffrey, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you, everyone,
Yes.
on the call. And
Pleasure.
that
Thank you
wraps
very
it
much.
up.
Pleasure.
Enjoyed it very
Thank you.
much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Is that good?